I was born with a jinx. The day my mother gave birth to my younger brother, at the age of 4, I spoke my first words in life. Here comes the debt collector. My father heard it, picked up a needle, and pierced my mouth. I bled a lot. My grandmother held me in her arms painfully and angrily scolded my father. This is just a child. Is it really necessary? I stared at my father without blinking and whispered in a voice only my grandmother could hear. He's going to die. The next day, my father's truck had an accident. By the time he was found, he had already been crushed into a pulp. After my mother received my father's funeral expenses, she took my younger brother and went to S City, leaving me with my grandmother. She said my father was killed by me, that I was a born debt collector. I stared at my younger brother in her arms and thought, clearly my younger brother is the debt collector. Why does she say I am? From that day on, I rarely saw my mother. The villagers didn't know that I could speak, whether they were adults or children passing by. They all called me mute. Some mean-spirited children would throw mud at me. You fatherless and motherless bastard, get out of here. We won't play with you. The kindness and malice of children are pure. Even though my grandmother had gone to each household countless times, scolding them with her hands on her hips, it didn't help much. One day, when my grandmother came home, I was watching the pot on the stove. Grandmother took out a first-grade textbook from her cloth bag. She stroked my head and said lovingly, Bella, today I worked for someone, and they gave this to me as payment. How about Grandma teaches you to read? I shook my head. I didn't want to learn to read. What could be more fun than counting ants? My usually gentle grandmother got very angry. She looked at me sharply and said, if you don't want to learn to read, then don't have dinner. You can eat when you've thought it through. 2 hours later, I found my grandmother and gesticulated wildly, indicating that I wanted to learn to read. It wasn't that I had really changed my mind. I just realized that if I really refused to learn, my grandmother wouldn't give me food, and I was hungry. Seeing that I was willing to learn, my grandmother smiled and quickly went to serve me food. Grandma knew Bella is the most obedient. After dinner, we'll start learning to read. From that day on, my grandmother taught me one character every day. If she didn't know a character herself, she would ask the neighbors. By the time I was 8 years old, I could recognize hundreds of characters. I could already communicate with my grandmother normally by writing. I cherished a writing board very much. My mother had thrown it away as garbage when she moved in S City. My grandmother was helping her at the time and secretly picked it up for me. My grandmother knew that I could speak but just didn't want to. She told everyone that I was just a late talker. On the night of my 12th birthday, my grandmother made me a big bowl of longevity noodles. On top of the wheat noodles were 2 golden poached eggs, accompanied by 2 green baby bok choy. It looked very appetizing. I ate until the oil was dripping from my mouth and waved to my grandmother, indicating that she should also eat while it was hot. My grandmother smiled at me but didn't pick up her chopsticks. After eating the longevity noodles, my Bella will be healthy and live a long life. Bella is 12 years old. What birthday wish did my big girl make? I bit the end of my chopsticks, thought for a while, then took paper and a pen and wrote stroke by stroke, to be with Grandma forever and have a happy family. Inside the house, the warmth between the grandmother and the granddaughter filled the air, while outside, the wind and sand howled, and it seemed that it was going to rain. Then there was a knock on the door. I was slurping the delicious noodles, wondering who could be there. Our family didn't have many friendly neighbors. A lonely old woman raising a mute girl. People usually avoided us, fearing getting into trouble. I peeked out and saw my mother. She led my younger brother into the house, put her bag on the bed with a tired look. I was very happy. Did my mother know it was my birthday and come back especially to celebrate it with me? My mother also saw me and the longevity noodles in front of me. She frowned deeply. Is today your birthday? My younger brother tugged at her hand. Mom, I'm hungry. I want to eat fried eggs too. My mother ignored my brother and just stared at me. I nodded, confirming that it was my birthday, secretly hoping that my mother had bought me a gift, but then I dismissed the thought, in my memory. It was impossible for my mother to come back just for my birthday. Suddenly, my mother rushed up, slapped me hard, and then wailed, I knew it, I knew you jinx, were out to get me. Why don't you just die? I was stunned by the slap, and my face quickly swelled up. Just then, my grandmother came into the house, having bolted the door. Seeing that I was hit, she rushed over and held me sadly. Why are you hitting the child for no reason? Today is Bella's 12th birthday. If you want to go crazy, get out of here and do it. My mother laughed and cried. then slumped on the ground and pointed at me. "This little bitch is out to get me, Mom. I was supposed to pay the down payment for a house tomorrow, but today Harry burned down someone's electric bike shed. I paid more than $200,000 in compensation. The more than $200,000 I saved over 8 years is all gone. The people in the community won't let me and Harry live there anymore. They forced me to come back overnight." With tears in her eyes, she looked at me. "What kind of cursed star were you reincarnated from? First, you cursed your father to death, and now you're out to get me and your brother. Why don't you just die? I'm begging you, just die, okay?" I was stunned by her hysterical roar, and tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't understand, according to what she said. It was clearly my younger brother who set fire to the shed. Why was it my fault? My grandmother pushed me. "Bella, take your brother to bed first. Grandma will talk to your mother." I nodded and reached out to take Harry's hand, but my mother roared, "You damned mute, don't touch my son." If an outsider said such things to me, my grandmother would scold them for a long time until they begged for mercy. But this was my mother, and my grandmother didn't know what to do. I lay in bed, crying, unable to sleep all night. My eyes were as swollen as walnuts. It was late at night when my grandmother finally lay down beside me, sighed, and held me in her arms. "Bella, don't blame your mother. She's had a hard time these years." The next day, I brushed my teeth, washed my face, and went to school as usual. I ignored my mother. She had ignored me all these years and even called me a damned mute. So what if I was a mute, anyway? I only wanted my grandmother. I didn't want to recognize this woman as my mother. She didn't deserve to be my mother. In the days after my mother returned to the village, she busied herself transferring Harry's school registration back and took him around to meet relatives. 8-year-old Harry had been spoiled and willful by her. Harry thought he was a child from the big city and always acted superior, looking down on the village children. One day, he was sitting under a tree, showing off his toy to others. "This little train was bought for me from abroad by my mom. It's very precious." When he pressed the head of Thomas, the train's horn went beep, beep, and it could run on its own when put on the ground. Tom, the grandson of Aunt Linda, was so jealous that his mouth watered. "Harry, let me play with it when you're done." Harry glanced at him disdainfully. "Get lost. You country bumpkin might dirty it. I won't let you play. Go play with mud on your own." Tom rolled his eyes at him. "I'm a country bumpkin, but I don't have a mute sister who curses her parents." After saying that, Tom started singing and dancing around. "Harry's sister is a mute. Harry is the mute's brother. Harry has a little train, and he's the mute's brother." Harry was so angry that he picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at Tom's head, shouting as he threw, "Your sister is the mute. I don't have a sister. My mom said she's a debt collector, and she should die soon. I'll kill you. I'll kill you, you damned country brat." By the time the adults noticed, there was a 10-centimeter wound on Tom's head caused by Harry with the stone. He had to get 14 stitches at the hospital. That afternoon, when I got home from school, I found that no one had started cooking, and neither my grandmother nor my mother was at home. It was evening when they finally came back. My mother was twisting Harry's ear, making him kneel on the ground. I was doing my homework next to them and didn't even look up. My mother shouted at him hysterically, "Why did you hit someone with a stone? Do you know how much I sacrificed to get you back to school here? Can't you be more obedient? If you have no friends in the village, how will you live in the future?" Harry pointed at me with his hand, pouted, and said, "It's all her fault that others cursed me. Tom said I had a mute sister first. Mom, didn't you say she's a debt collector? Why don't you let her die? I don't want such a sister. I want my dad. I don't want a sister." He started crying pitifully. My grandmother's face turned green, and she scolded my younger brother for the first time. "Your sister is not a debt collector. Bella is a good girl." When my mother heard that Harry fought because of me, she became furious. "Bella, did I owe you in my last life? Do you have to kill me and your brother? Do you know how much I've suffered because of you?" I put my finished homework in my school bag and then looked at Harry kneeling on the ground. There was no cuteness on his chubby face, only snot, and his eyes were squeezed into slits by the fat. With his big mouth wailing, I couldn't hide my disgust for him. "Then let the real debt collector have no offspring and die before the age of 16, I said, as if possessed. Because I hadn't spoken for a long time, my voice was hoarse. But the 4 people in the room heard me clearly. My grandmother rushed up and hugged me. "Bella, don't say such things. No one in our family is a debt collector." She kept chanting like she was possessed. "Childish words mean nothing. Please, God, don't blame the child for her nonsense." This old woman apologizes on her behalf. My grandmother knelt on the ground and kowtowed frantically. Soon, there were bruises on her forehead. I tried to stop her, but she tried to pull me down to kneel with her. Bella, kneel down and kowtow. Tell God that what you said was all nonsense. I stubbornly remained silent, as if I had become a mute again. My mother actually laughed. Mom, since she dared to curse, let's see if God opens his eyes. Don't worry, if this little bitch dies, you still have a daughter and a precious grandson. They will take care of you. My grandmother ignored her and shook my shoulders. Bella, will you take back your words? I still silently shook my head. A word once spoken can't be taken back. Extremely disappointed, my grandmother slapped me for the first time in my life. I didn't want to cry in front of my mother, so I held back my tears and slammed the door as I left. After running out of the house, I wandered aimlessly on the country ridges. The countryside was bright with the moon and stars. Even without lights, it was fairly illuminated. However, I met two high school students who were coming back from evening self-study in the village. These two brothers were 3 or 4 years older than me, around 17 or 18. The older one was named Jack, and the younger one was Jason. They had also called me a mute before. My grandmother went to their parents to complain, and out of consideration for neighborly relations, their parents gave them a good beating, unexpectedly. We met in this situation, after looking at each other. They blocked my way, one in front and one behind. Bella, taking a walk at night. I tried to run, but they grabbed my hands. Jason laughed. Come and play with us for a while. Don't be in such a hurry to go back. Jack and Jason pulled my hands and dragged me into the cornfield. I wanted to scream for help but couldn't make a sound. My throat felt as if it was blocked by cotton. Jack pushed me onto the ground in the cornfield, groped me indecently, and started unbuttoning my clothes randomly. Bella has grown up. Look at her smooth skin. He brought his mouth close to my neck and sniffed my scent. Jason seemed a bit worried. Brother, won't we get caught? Her grandmother is very fierce. Jack spat a thick wad of phlegm on the ground. What are you afraid of? Don't you want to have fun? If you're scared, go home. I'll enjoy myself alone. She's just a mute. She might never get married in her life. We're doing her a favor by playing with her. Although I was only 12 years old, I knew they had bad intentions. I was wearing a shirt, which was quickly torn open by the two of them. Underneath, I only had a small vest. One of them held down my hands, and the other held down my feet, and then they tried to do whatever they wanted to me. In a moment of desperation, I blurted out, "If you touch me, you too will die a horrible death." Jack and Jason were startled. They didn't expect me to be able to speak. Jason was still a bit scared. Brother, she's not a mute. Maybe we should forget it. What if she tells someone? Jack looked at me viciously. We originally just wanted to have some fun, but since she can talk, we can't let her live. We'll kill her after we're done. My heart turned cold. Jack was just a high school student. How could he be so cruel? To him, killing seemed as easy as killing a chicken. The hands of the two brothers wandered over my body, and they kissed and groped me randomly. I closed my eyes, resigned to my fate. I was so angry that I thought that even if I died, I would make sure these two brothers died with me. Just as Jack was fumbling to take off his pants, suddenly, there was a scream from him. "Ah, brother, I've been bitten by a snake. What should I do?" Jason raised his arm, on which there was a bamboo viper as thick as a chopstick. His face turned pale with fear. Jack cursed and let go of me. He quickly helped his younger brother remove the snake and then leaned over his brother's arm to suck out the venom. This was the perfect time to escape. I took off running. I rushed back home. Just a little bit, maybe just a little bit more, and I would never have seen Grandma again. When Grandma saw me with my clothes disheveled, my hair in a mess, and marks of bruises still on my body, she immediately understood what had happened. She held me in her arms, crying, "Who did this? Bella, tell Grandma. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll kill their whole family." I shook my head, crying. My mother sat there as if nothing had happened and sneered at me. "I told you some oaths shouldn't be taken lightly. See, the retribution came right back at you. Losing your virginity at such a young age. It'll be hard for you to have children in the future. Aren't you exactly the debt collector who'll have no offspring?" I wanted to say that I hadn't been violated, but my mother's eyes were full of disdain. She only saw what she wanted to see. Grandma's eyes were bloodshot. "Helen, are you a mother? Don't you have a conscience for saying such things? If you keep picking on Bella, take your precious son and get out of here. You're no longer Bella's mother. And I no longer have a daughter like you. Everything was fine between Bella and me before you came back, Ever since you returned, so many troublesome things have happened. I think you're the real debt collector. I shouldn't have given birth to you." After Grandma helped me wash up, she carefully examined my body. Only when she was sure that I hadn't been violated did she finally relax a little, before Grandma could seek justice. At dawn, the families of Jack and Jason came to our door. More than a dozen people showed up, and half the village gathered outside our house to watch the commotion. Jack and Jason's parents didn't come empty-handed. They carried 2 corpses and blocked our doorway in a menacing manner. When Harry heard the knock, he went to open the door. Jack and Jason's parents grabbed him and asked, "Where did your sister go yesterday? When did she come back?" Harry blinked and said, "Mom said Bella ran out last night to meet men." "How would I know when she came back? I was already asleep." Grandma almost fainted when she heard this. Jack and Jason's parents started wailing, "Heaven, Bella, you shameless little slut, you seduced my 2 sons, my 2 boys." Jack and Jason didn't come home last night. Their father and I went to look for them and found them unconscious in the cornfield. Jack was still barely alive and kept saying he was looking for Bella. She must have seduced my sons. They were about to take the college entrance exam. The neighbors crowded around our house, pointing at me and whispering. The wife of the village head spat out sunflower seeds and said, "She's only 12 but already knows how to seduce men, and 2 at once. Don't be fooled by her muteness. She seems to have other talents." Grandma held on to her last bit of strength and said, "It wasn't Bella. My Bella wouldn't do such a thing. If you keep spouting nonsense, I won't be polite." Aunt Lisa chimed in, "Bella's grandma, what are you saying? There aren't many boys in our village. The Wilson family has scrimped and saved to send their 2 sons to high school. Now that this has happened, don't you think you should give them an explanation?" Grandma shouted at her, "Explanation? My Bella is only 12 years old. Although she doesn't talk much, don't the neighbors know what kind of child she is? She's honest and kind-hearted." A sharp-eyed aunt suddenly pulled me out of the house. The sun shone on my neck, and the bruises were clearly visible. The crowd erupted like cold water splashing into a pan of hot oil. "Goodness, she's so young but can already seduce men. Look at those bruises. How can she say nothing happened?" "Mrs. Wilson, please accept my condolences. Poor your 2 sons, falling for such a seductress." Some old men looked at me with lecherous eyes and muttered things like, "Despite her young age, can she really handle it?" I bit my lip hard, unable to understand how these people could spread rumors out of thin air. Jack and Jason's parents, as if they had solid evidence against me, grabbed shovels and rushed into our house, smashing everything in sight. My mother had already run away with Harry long ago. Grandma tried her best to stop them. "Stop, why are you smashing my house? Bella didn't do anything wrong." Finally, I spoke my first words in public. "It wasn't me, I didn't harm anyone. Nor did I seduce anyone," but the villagers looked at me like I was a monster. "So she can talk, then why pretend to be mute? There must be something wrong with her. I heard she was the one who cursed her father to death." "That's right, after her father died, her mother sewed her mouth shut with a needle, and that's why she stopped talking. Later, her mother abandoned her, but even from a distance, she managed to make her mother go bankrupt. No wonder her brother burned down someone's shed out of nowhere. She's truly a debt collector." Jack's father pushed Grandma, and she fell backward, hitting her head on a stone pier. "Grandma," I screamed and rushed towards her. A loud ringing filled my head, unlocking many long, buried memories. After all these years, I could finally speak normally. My mother seemed to be shocked into action and also ran over, but Grandma had already lost consciousness. Seeing that the situation had gotten out of hand, someone quickly called the police. When the police arrived, an ambulance followed, but it was too late. Grandma had already passed away before the ambulance arrived. I threw myself on Grandma's body and wept bitterly. In the few days since my mother came back, it felt like I had shed all the tears I had in me. I gave Harry, who was hiding behind my mother, a hateful look. There was no sadness or joy on his face, just indifference. After understanding the whole story, the police went to the cornfield to search for evidence. Finally, they announced to the villagers that Jack and Jason had died from snake bites while attempting to rape me. When Jason was sucking the venom out of Jack, he forgot that he had an inflamed wisdom tooth and oral ulcers, so he also got poisoned by the snake. There was no evidence to prove that I had killed Jack and Jason. On the contrary, Grandma's death was related to their family. It was Jack's father who pushed Grandma. Considering that their family had just lost 2 sons, the police privately told them that if they could get our family's letter of understanding, they might be charged with manslaughter instead of intentional homicide. I looked at my mother coldly and said, I don't care what your motives are, someone from their family must pay with their life for Grandma. Someone must die. You never showed Grandma an ounce of filial piety when she was alive. If you dare to sign the letter of understanding, I'll never forgive you for the rest of my life. My mother looked at me without speaking, and after a while, she nodded slightly. I looked at the wife of the village head. Her family ran a chicken farm in the village with 300 or 400 chickens. When she noticed me staring at her, she fidgeted uncomfortably. I looked at her, as if speaking to her but also to myself. There are too many chickens in the village. What if they disturb Grandma on her way to the afterlife? She made a disgusted face. Bella, if you want some chicken, I have plenty at my place. If you're planning a feast for your Grandma, let me know. You can order from me, and I'll give you a good price. I shook my head. Your chickens are too noisy. I don't want them. She snorted and walked away. That night, weasels got into her chicken coop. They killed the chickens but didn't eat them. Just taking a few bites of each one and leaving them there. More than 300 chickens were dead by morning, and not a single one was left whole. The scene looked like pure carnage. Strangely, no one heard a sound from outside, not even a single chicken crow. All that was left was the furious yelling of the village head's wife the next day. She called the police immediately, but the police refused to take the case, saying they had never heard of a curse being considered as evidence. We set up a mourning shed in front of our house, since Grandma only had my mother as her daughter, and my mother had been unfilial. Many of the guests who came were the same people who had come to gawk the other day. They pretended to shed a few tears in front of Grandma's mourning hall, burned some joss paper, and hypocritically said things like, "Old sister was such a good person, she left this world too soon." I just knelt there numbly, feeling as if there was a layer of frosted glass between me and the rest of the world. Just a few days ago, Grandma had made me longevity noodles and wished me a long and healthy life. Now, we were separated by life and death. The bonds of this world were truly fragile. At this moment, Jack's mother came. As soon as she entered the mourning shed, she knelt down and kowtowed to Grandma, crying, "Old aunt, our family is sorry for you. We caused your death, for the past few decades as neighbors. Please forgive us." My mother stood up abruptly. "What are you doing here? Isn't it enough that you killed my mother? Get out. We won't sign the letter of understanding." No matter how much I hated my mother, I was grateful to her for refusing to sign the letter of understanding. Grandma had died because of me. If we forgave these people easily, I would have betrayed Grandma's spirit. Jack's mother clung tightly to my mother's legs. "Helen, please have mercy on me. I've already lost 2 sons. If Wilson goes to prison, my life will be over. I know you're short on money after paying that $200,000 compensation. Our family will pay you $300,000. All you need to do is sign the letter of understanding. Don't just think about yourself. Think about Bella and Harry. Just sign those 3 words, and you'll have $300,000. My mother wavered, although she didn't say anything. I could tell she was tempted by the Wilson family's offer. I said to her, "If you sign that letter of understanding, you'll no longer have me as a daughter." The old men and women around gasped when they heard about the $300,000. Bella's grandma really knew how to take care of her family, even in death. She didn't burden them and instead made $300,000 for the children. "Bella, don't be unreasonable. Your Uncle Wu is still in prison. After all, you've been with his 2 sons. In the old days, he would have been your father-in-law." How could they say such shameless things? It was Aunt Lisa, the same one who had insulted Grandma before. I held back my nausea and said, "Aunt Lisa, aren't you afraid of retribution for saying these things in front of my Grandma's mourning hall?" Aunt Lisa stuck out her neck defiantly. "I'd say the same thing even if your grandma were alive." My mouth, my words, "You little girl have no sense of decency." I nodded. "Since you like talking so much, why don't you tell everyone your true feelings? Your mouth must ache from not speaking the truth." As soon as I finished speaking, Aunt Lisa started blabbering uncontrollably. "Wilson and I have been lovers for years. We got together right after he married Mrs. Wilson. My husband is no good in bed. I've been so lonely since Wilson went to prison. Just let your mother sign the letter of understanding and set him free." As soon as she finished, Aunt Lisa's husband punched her in public. "You bitch. You've been cheating on me with that Wu guy all these years, making me look like a cuckold." Aunt Lisa howled. "Stop hitting me, stop." When she covered her mouth, she realized that as soon as she stopped speaking, her mouth would start to hurt, and when she opened her mouth, only the truth came out. She looked at me like I was a monster, covering her mouth yet still blurting out all her secrets as she ran away. Soon, The whole village knew that she had been stealing her grandson's milk powder and using her mother-in-law's face towel to wipe her feet. I sneered as I watched Aunt Lisa flee in embarrassment and then went back to keep vigil by Grandma's coffin. In the afternoon, I saw my mother sneaking out of the morning shed, with Harry following closely behind. I quietly followed them. I heard Harry munching on a pig's trotter and saying, "Mom, Mrs. Wilson said she'll give us $350,000 if you sign the letter of understanding." Mom, Grandma was old anyway, she's dead and gone. With $350,000, we can not only pay the down payment for a house but also rent a storefront to start a business. My mother glared at him. "Did Mrs. Wilson teach you to say that?" Harry tugged at her arm. "Mom, Grandma is dead. You have to think about me. I want to go back to school in the city. I don't want to stay in this countryside. They all bully me and make fun of me because I have a mute sister. What if one day my sister curses me to death too?" My mother gritted her teeth and made up her mind. "Tell Mrs. Wilson to come see me secretly tonight. Pack your things. We'll take the money, sign the letter, and leave. And don't tell your sister. This house of Grandma's is more than enough for her." As I stood by the door frame, my mother turned around and met my gaze. I said coldly, planning to leave, "No one is going anywhere. Grandma hasn't even been buried yet, and you want to forgive the people who killed her. Do you deserve to be Grandma's daughter?" My mother's face twisted slightly, and she stopped pretending. "I don't deserve it. I've endured so much hardship outside all these years. It's not that I didn't want to take care of your grandma. She just wasn't fated to be looked after by me. You have to think about your brother. He has no father, and he'll need to get married and have children in the future. If your brother lives well, the He family will have descendants." I sneered. "No one is leaving." Then I turned and walked back into the morning shed. My mother shouted after me, "You're the one who brought the Wilsons here. You call me unfilial. You're the one who killed your grandma. If you really loved your grandma, you should go and join her. You should just die." I turned back and smiled at her. "It's you who should die, not me. Grandma wished for me to be healthy and live a long life." After a while, Mrs. Wilson came. As if to spite me, my mother signed the letter of understanding right in front of me. The moment she signed it, a strong wind suddenly blew outside, and there was thunder and lightning. Bolts of lightning struck just 10 meters away from the morning shed. My mother, Mrs. Wilson, and even the people helping with the funeral were all terrified. The elderly villagers pointed at my mother. "Helen, your mother's spirit is angry. Quickly kowtow to her." My mother, scared out of her wits, turned around and knelt in front of Grandma's photo. "Mom, I had no choice. Please have mercy on your daughter. I have no father, no husband, and now you're gone too. I'll have no one to rely on. I can't gamble with Harry's future." I stood beside her and looked down at her. She made betrayal sound like it was just a petty act of defiance. She had betrayed me and Grandma. Harry pointed at me and said, "Mom, it must be Bella who said something. She has a jinx's mouth. Whatever she says always comes true." My mother finally looked up and stared at me. "Do you really want to make sure Grandma can't rest in peace even in the afterlife?" Her eyes were filled with hatred. As if I was the one who had done something wrong again, the villagers all started to avoid me. Some people brought up the incident of the village chief's sister-in-law's chicken coop. Before the chickens in the village chief's sister-in-law's house died, Bella said their chickens were too noisy and that it would be better if they all died overnight. Goodness, this girl's words are so poisonous. She really does have a jinx's mouth. Some people who had sided with the Wilson family when they came to cause trouble began to feel. The thunder and rain outside the window continued for a while and then gradually stopped. A faint smile appeared on my mother's face. She stood up, dusted herself off, and said, "Your grandma has forgiven me. I'll take Harry back to S-City tonight. You can handle the rest of the matters on your own. Your grandma raised you for 8 years, so you should do your part." I couldn't understand how such a kind person like Grandma could have given birth to such an unfilial daughter as my mother. "You're celebrating too soon," I said. "No one is leaving. No one is getting out of this village." The people who had just called me a jinx became bolder now that the thunderstorm had stopped. They thought that thunderstorms in June and July could come suddenly, and what happened earlier was just a coincidence. A boy a few years older than me stood up on behalf of the elders and scolded me. "Bella, don't be ungrateful. Who do you think you are? You say no one can leave. Well, I'm leaving right now. Let's see what you can do about it." Just as he was being arrogant, there was a loud bang outside the door, and someone screamed, "Landslide! The landslide has blocked the village road." I watched him calmly. He swallowed hard and ran out in a panic. Bella, you witch, I'm not afraid of you. I'll find someone to teach you a lesson. My gaze swept over my mother and the others, who looked ashen-faced. Grandma must be lonely on her way to the afterlife. Why don't you all go and keep her company? Harry shrieked. That's your grandma. If you want to accompany her, do it yourself. Mom said it's a good thing Grandma died. Now we can finally live in a foreign-style house. Just as he finished speaking, the boy who had run out came back, leading a big black dog. He pointed at me and shouted at the dog, "Yellow, go and bite this witch." The crowd quickly moved aside. The black dog was as strong as a young calf, following its master's order. It pounced towards me but instead jumped over me and onto Harry. Harry smelled strongly of greasy lard. Since the dog wasn't professionally trained, it went crazy at the smell of blood. It pounced on Harry and, by chance, bit right on his groin. Harry let out a scream, rolled his eyes, and fainted. The dog didn't let go. It viciously tore off a piece of flesh from Harry's groin and swallowed it. The boy who had brought the dog in collapsed to the ground in fear. And a patch of yellow-brown liquid spread beneath him. My mother shouted at the stunned crowd, "Help him! What are you standing there for?" Only then did the people come to their senses and carried Harry to the village clinic in a hurry. Some people with some medical knowledge tried to get the flesh out of the dog's mouth to see if it could be reattached, but the dog broke free and ran away. I murmured, "Grandma, look, the debt collector will have no offspring." Just then, a young man around 20 years old suddenly appeared outside the mourning shed. He was wearing a purple Taoist robe and walked into the shed on his own, then stared at me. This was the person the village chief's sister-in-law had hired to deal with the weasels. The death of hundreds of chickens had finally brought him here. When he saw me, he frowned and said, "Using your own obsessions to summon the heavenly thunder and cursing so many people just for your personal grudges. Is it really worth it? How many more people do you want to harm before you stop?" I added some joss paper to Grandma's incense burner and said, "They wronged me first. I'm justified in doing whatever I do. Grandma protected me all my life. I can't let her death go unavenged. Helen doesn't deserve to be Grandma's daughter. It would be better if she went down to accompany her." "Simon, don't meddle in this." Simon smiled at me. "Your words have gained a life of their own. The Lord of Hell is probably going to cry." The village chief's sister-in-law asked him in confusion, "Do you know this girl, Simon? Did she cause the death of my hundreds of chickens?" Simon said enigmatically, "Yes and no." The village chief's sister-in-law was even more confused. "So is it or isn't it?" He pointed at me and said, "This one is no ordinary person. She's like the judge's pen in the hand of the Lord of Hell. Have you heard of the saying, a spoken word becomes a prophecy? That's exactly about her. Every word she says contains the laws of heaven and earth, which is why she can trigger celestial phenomena. In a way, when she passes judgment, it's because you're guilty. So, it is and it isn't." He looked around at the villagers in the mourning shed and said, "You've bullied this granddaughter pair in the past. Getting cursed is really no more than you deserve." Some timid villagers immediately knelt down in front of him. "Master, save us. We're just ordinary folks who didn't recognize your greatness. We've only been used to taking petty advantages and bullying the weak, but our crimes don't deserve death. Please save us, Master." "Yes, Master. She said she wants us to accompany her grandma, but we don't want to die." Simon nodded and said to me, "Bella, they're at fault, but their crimes don't warrant death. Come up with a way to lift the curse." I turned my head away from him. "Do you really think I'm a child who can be easily bullied? People should pay the price for their mistakes. The Wilson brothers tried to rape and kill me. They deserve to die. The Wilson parents couldn't tell right from wrong, bullied us and caused Grandma's death, and tried to use money to escape punishment. They deserve to die." Harry caused trouble with his words, maliciously set fire to someone's shed, and then put the blame on me. A mute girl, Helen, even more deserves to die. She sewed my mouth shut with a needle when I was a child and then abandoned me with Grandma. As a mother, she failed in her duty. As a daughter, she deserves to die, and all these villagers were accomplices. I don't think I'm wrong. Simon scratched his head and cursed, "You're all heartless. Why did you pick on such a good person? How am I supposed to help you resolve this?" After a while, he asked me, "How about this? Your grandma just passed away yesterday, and her soul can't have gone far. I can call her back. But after suffering such a severe blow, her body won't be in good shape. She'll need someone to take care of her day and night. Are you willing?" I blurted out, I'd take care of Grandma for the rest of my life. I'd do anything as long as Grandma came back to life." Simon sighed, "Then lift the curse." And I'll cast the spell right away. I shook my head. You cast the spell first. I'll lift the curse as soon as she's alive. Seeing that I wouldn't budge, Simon turned to the villagers and asked, setting up this soul summoning formation is quite expensive. Who's going to pay the ritual fee? The villagers looked at each other in dismay. The master, who had seemed so noble and willing to help the people just now, was suddenly talking about money. The village chief swallowed hard and asked, Master, how much does this soul summoning formation cost? Simon glared at him in frustration. How can you talk about money? This is the ritual fee, not for me. The friendship price is $650,000, not a penny less. The villagers who had been gossiping earlier looked at the village entrance blocked by the landslide and then thought of Harry, who was still unconscious and in pain at the clinic. On the night of my 12th birthday, Grandma made me a big bowl of longevity noodles. Fine, said the uncle of Jack, gritting his teeth. If such a kind person as Grandma can come back to life, it's worth paying some money. I wiped away my tears and pretended to thank them. I'll remember the kindness you've shown to my grandma, folks. Calculating carefully, each family would have to pay at least $40,000 or $50,000. They must have regretted their words by now. Once the money was paid, Simon immediately got to work. Muttering incantations, the gates of heaven open. The gates of earth open, summon the soul from afar. After about half an hour, Simon finished the ritual and sat on the ground, too exhausted to care about his appearance. A moment later, I heard a deep sigh coming from the coffin. The next moment, Grandma sat up. I almost threw myself into her arms, looking at her with tears streaming down my face. Grandma, I missed you so much. Just then, my mother walked into the morning hall, her hair disheveled, looking no better than a ghost. Bella, spare your brother. I've wronged you and Grandma all these years. I didn't raise Harry well. Can you give Mom another chance and spare your brother? He's your own flesh and blood. With my help. Grandma stood up and looked down at my mother. When my mother saw Grandma come back to life, she let out a scream of terror. Grandma slapped my mother hard, panting heavily. Helen, get out of here. I might as well have never given birth to you. You're no longer my daughter. I looked at Grandma. Her hand must have hurt so much from that slap. My mother looked at Grandma, then slunk away, taking her precious son with her. I heard that she went to find the boy who had set the dog on Harry, but since the boy was a minor, the matter regarding Harry was eventually dropped. After Helen left with Harry, Grandma and I returned to our peaceful life. The difference was that the villagers now treated Grandma and me with great awe. Now, if a child in the village said the word duck, their parents would immediately kick them if they heard it. They were afraid of triggering my bad memories. When I was in junior high school, the village was slated for demolition. Grandma used the compensation money to buy a house in the city and sent me to study there. Leaning on her shoulder, I thought of my 12th birthday wish, to be with Grandma forever and have a happy family. Afterward, Simon secretly sent me many messages. Now that the matter with your grandma is settled, what are your plans? The Lord of Hell has been going crazy looking for you. He's even turned his bed upside down several times. I replied expressionlessly. He accidentally threw me into the reincarnation well himself. I deserve a few 10,000 year-long vacation. Since it's so hard to be human, of course, I'm going to live this life to the fullest, healthy and long-lived. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.